Let's start. Do you have anything specific you want to say as an introduction?
Me?
Yeah, you're the host.
I'm the host?
You're the host.
You're the lady. You're the one that everyone likes.
You're the host.
I'm the one that everyone hates.
I think you're the one that everyone likes.
No, everyone trolls me.
I think you're the star.
I think your cat's the one that everyone likes.
Yes, he's right.
The opinion is split whether or not it's one of you two, but it's definitely the cat.
Yeah,
All right.
I think it's Henry.
I know. I'm a fan. I watch the show.
Welcome to the Kiwi and Scooter podcast.
And we are having our very first episode ever. And today's guest is Jordan Thornquest.
That's me.
From the Wild Thornsberries, actually. Nah, this is Jordan Thornquest. He is a musician, producer, and employee at the Twin Beans Coffee.
That's true.
And I got all that right?
At the Twin Beans Coffee.
That's right.
That's the only one.
The only one in Twin Falls, Idaho.
I'm actually really excited that I'm here because I saw that you tweeted how you and Kiwi first met on your podcast and you're married.
It's true.
I'm excited to be your second wife.
Awesome. That's right. This is, honestly, you're in the fast lane for like a lifelong friendship. And I like that you're far away because that means we don't have to hang out all the time.
That's the hardest thing with like being friends with people
that
is
are
like
close.
Being
Yeah.
able to be friends enough that you're like, I need a break from you.
Yeah.
Like my very best friend, we lived together for like a year and a half, and we got to the point where it's like, okay, we like each other too much to live together, or we're gonna murder each other. And so now we live in the same apartment complex, but we have separate apartments, so it's perfect. So we can go without seeing each other for days, but then if we want to hang out, he'll just knock on my door and be like, hey. So it's the perfect balance.
Yeah, I think when you're married, it's one of those things where you're like living a life. So like you usually have jobs or school. So there's like long periods of time, like blocks of hours where you don't see each other. So I think it works out. I think if you were a married couple and you both were doing nothing, I could see that getting like really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you get to the point where like we've done everything and said everything today, so now
Yeah.
Most of our conversations are like usually just about the thing we're doing. We know all of each other's stories.
Yeah.
So there's not like any stories we can tell, and we do everything together, so we can't like. It'd be really weird. Like, remember that one time we did that thing? Of course I remember. That was fucking yesterday, dude.
Yeah.
I was there. Yeah, I think that's the hard thing about any relationship. Like the one that I was in, that's basically what all my music's about, is that was something that I struggled with was what do you do when you get to the point where you like have done and said everything that's new or exciting? Like how do you have to find somebody that you can essentially like be okay with doing nothing with. Like I think that's a really special thing about finding a person that you're like, I just want to be incredibly bored with you and I'm super happy with that. But then also being able to say like, let's go do something fun. Like that's the tough thing is you get to the point where you're like, all right, so now what?
Yeah, you got to find somebody that you want to like make new fun memories with too, you know?
Or a YouTube show.
Yeah.
Honestly, thinking of ideas for our YouTube show is what we fight about the most.
Yeah, that's...
That's such a special, like, one-of-a-kind millennial thing. Like, what are we going to do for our show?
Yeah, like writing scripts.
So now I'm curious, what's a recent show argument that you've had? Like, I loved your Ebola cereal video. Was there a lot of discussion that went into making that?
Honestly, we were both pretty gung-ho. We always, every time I get a bowl of cereal, I say Ebola.
Yeah.
Because I think it's funny.
That's just like something that's like just like a long-running joke that we've had where it's like, let me go get Ebola. And it just
and
means...
then I come back with Reese's Puffs.
Yeah, and it comes back to Reese's Puffs.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was funny, and so...
Oh, and you quoted the Updog joke in that video too. So I just heard that for the first time like last year.
Oh, really?
And I lost my shit. I had never heard that before. It was the funniest, and so I tried to go around and do that to other people, but because I was homeschooled and all of my other friends weren't, they had heard that before.
They already heard that.
And so like, you can't do that. And so when I found the one person who hadn't heard it, I was like, yes!
Wait, so you're homeschooled?
Yeah.
So Christian or weird?
Christian.
Christian.
No, I didn't get any culture stuff, thank goodness. But
Okay.
it's funny because I didn't realize, like, being homeschooled, it was such a normalized thing in my friend group and my family group. So, like, there was you're homeschooled, like, as a funny thing, but I didn't realize that it was actually, like, super weird to be homeschooled in certain cases. And that's something that, like, looking in, having been a part of that, you can definitely... I mean, that's how you get Alex Jones.
Yeah. But that's how you keep kids into staying, like, young Earth creationists.
Yeah.
Is you don't want them studying the... But now we have a culture where it's okay to deny science.
Yeah.
So maybe
Chance was homeschooled too, our drummer.
He's weird, not Christian.
Yeah. Well, his family's Mormon. But Mormons aren't typically homeschooled. It's not like
that's weird.
It's not like a normal Mormon thing.
If it's Christian or weird, those are the two religions.
Yeah. Basically.
Oh, you're a weirdist.
Yeah. But no, about the updog joke, I feel like another one of my favorite kinds of humor is like people making jokes when it's like totally inappropriate to do so, like when you're dying from Ebola. So I feel
Plus,
like
we love just bad jokes, something that's like really
I
dumb.
love shitty jokes.
Especially if the person telling it is sincere about it.
Yeah.
That's what's really funny.
Yeah, I think that's one of the kinds of humor that we try to go for.
That makes me really happy.
Really earnest, bad humor.
My friend Eli is a puns craftsman, so like he'll sit there whenever he hears something he can make a pun out of, and he'll just be silent for several minutes, and then he'll get this grin on his face, and he'll like have the perfect pun, and he'll just say it, and everyone we leave the room, like you can't.
That's also the
the
second part of what's funny about dumb jokes is the reaction to them.
The way that people respond.
Will groan, or that's also hilarious.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that Eli has to face some of that.
Have I ever told you my favorite joke?
Let's hear it. You can tell it in front of all 800 of our subscribers.
800. So 2 cannibals were eating a clown, and one turned to the other and said, "Does this taste funny to you?"
You're off the podcast.
Yes! I did it!
Kicked off
Can
in
you
the
play
first
like some Price is Right? He was like,
10 minutes in, and you're kicked off. That was fast.
that was a record.
All right, so let's talk about your album a little bit.
Yeah. So how should I start talking about my album?
Well, let's just start from the title track, the opening track.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
kind of like your single for the album.
Yeah. So that was it's funny because normally whenever I talk about my music, it comes from a very like performer place. So talking about this album where it's a lot more personal is almost kind of makes me nervous.
I've never even seen you perform live
Yeah.
other than from videos.
Yeah.
So I only know the studio stuff you've done. First thing I noticed from it is you got a really dirty bass tone.
Yeah.
Acoustic guitar on most of the songs?
No, actually, that was something where part of the limitation of the album, like whenever I went to write the album itself, I basically said, okay, so when it comes to the way that I record music, I'm very self-conscious about how it sounds. And I always get to a point where I write and record and then hate the recording and never do anything with it. And
That's
so
familiar, yeah.
Yeah, I told myself, like, if I'm going to make an album, I have to give myself a deadline, make it public, and then have the album done by then. So I had nothing
I feel
going
that.
into it.
We do
feel
that too,
Yeah, we do
yeah,
that
yeah.
too.
And
Yeah.
so it was basically me saying, okay, I've got a month, and I'm going to make 5 songs. So I just said that. I said December 1st, I have an album coming out. I kind of knew what I wanted it to be about. And so then I went in just saying, this is the general theme, we're going to go for it. And so that kind of restricted my instrument choice where I had to do all digital drums. So all of those were just
No way, I would
Yeah.
have never guessed.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't for one second think that they were digital drums.
It actually wasn't super hard because that was something that I use Logic for recording.
Okay.
And there's a really nifty feature where you can generate drum tracks. And so what it does is you essentially set the tempo. They have different drummers that are just styles of percussion, and then you pick the kit. And so it gets a general foundation, and then I'll move that into a MIDI track and then change things, move things, and loop them.
2017 is insane.
It's wild. Like, it's super cool. And I would love to record something where I can actually do the drums. I think that was part of the restriction of time was like I couldn't do that because I wasn't very good at them and wouldn't record anything that would sound good. So I was like, I'm going to do digital drums and then I'm going to record the bass direct in. So I just plugged it straight into the computer. So that tone that I got, something I like to do is I'll do a bass amp to get the smooth kind of low end sound. And then I'll take a guitar amp and just duplicate the track that I recorded. And so then I can dial in like a dirty guitar track and then bring it up to match.
Okay.
And so that gets that really kind of grimy, fun, almost like a rock bass tone. So that's kind of like what Royal Blood does for their live bass tone, where they will just run a bass through a pedal board into a splitter. One goes out to a guitar amp, one goes out to a bass amp, and then they mix it.
Okay.
So you get a really great kind of fat. It almost sounds like it could fill the space of a bass and a guitar. Like that's how you can be a two-piece with a bass and get that kind of tone.
Well, it sounds like when I listened with headphones, it sounded very bassy. I should say you can get this album at jordanthornquest.com. Is that right? How'd you get that domain name?
I didn't know. Okay, so no one else has the last name Thornquest. Like, my immediate family and a couple family members from around the world that have the last name. But like Thornquest with an I is actually very common.
Yeah.
But like I just searched whenever I wanted to buy a website. I was like, okay, it probably has to be something like Jordan Thornquest from TwinFalls.com. But no, I looked it up. I was just like Jordan Thornquest, and it was there. I was like, no way. Like
You're made. You're set.
Yeah,
Michael
I was like-
Abraham is like a very common last name to the point where there's like, I think like a murderer named Michael Abraham.
No, the guy who stabbed George Harrison is named Michael.
Oh yeah, the
Abraham.
guy who
Oh,
stabbed
no.
George Harrison. Yeah.
I was like so bummed out when I found that out.
You're like, I'm gonna change my name.
Yeah, that's it. And there's like a famous stripper named Kaylee Palmer and
How did you get?
Yeah.
So it just redirects to your Bandcamp, obviously.
Yeah, so I'm a web developer by trade, or at least I was for a long time, and I built a website that I used for a while.
Okay.
But it got to the point where I just hadn't maintained it, and it was a lot of work to try and get it the way I wanted. And so,
Well, and Bandcamp just does a stand-up job with their website.
amazing.
Yeah.
yeah.
I love Bandcamp.
Bandcamp is great.
Yeah, so I ended up just recently, I basically said, okay, for the time being, when people go to my website, the first thing I want to talk about is my music anyways, so I'll just redirect it to the Bandcamp URL.
Right.
And so I'm one of the 8 people that pay for Bandcamp Pro.
Ah,
Yeah,
all
so-
8 of you.
One of those things that you can do with that is have a custom domain. So it's like, since I have jordanthornquest.com, I'll just have music.jordanthornquest.com be the website.
Okay.
So hopefully I've said it enough times that people have actually heard it at this point.
JordanThornquest.com.
Dot
We're gonna
com.
we're gonna edit in so like a little tag comes
Yeah.
up
jordanthornquest.music.
every time you say it.
XXX.
That's how you get some real dirty
That's
shit.
how do you think I afforded anything I use?
So one of the things that is coming with all this net neutrality stuff is that Bandcamp apparently is gonna totally get fucked
Don't
by all that stuff.
don't say that.
No, that's
just
not
what
even
I've
like
heard.
that's not even like questionable. That's like
How is-
for sure going
Like,
to happen.
what is the, I guess, versus Spotify and Apple Music?
Yep.
Those would probably be fast-laned in favor of something like Bandcamp.
Yeah, and so
Especially if you're like, because a lot of people pay for subscriptions to Spotify, and obviously Apple Music is a paid subscription. So that'll be fast laned. But
You
yeah,
guys are using DistroKid, right, for your music stuff, for putting
That-
those on those platforms?
John does all that. The guy who owns
Yeah.
our label.
Okay,
we're on
rock
John Hale's label. So
One of the things that it's not necessarily DistroKid just by itself, but one thing I noticed is that Apple Music pays way more than Spotify.
Really?
Yeah, I tracked. You can see just a breakdown of where your money's coming from, and so like where I had a certain amount of plays on Spotify, rounded out to like $2. Apple Music was closer to like 18.
oh really?
It was wild. Like it really. I don't know what it is about like just the division of,
For the same number of plays?
yeah. Like roughly the same number. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but it was like $2 versus maybe $10. Like it was so much more from
Wow.
that service specifically.
Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spotify. I've heard just like totally fucks people over. Like I read somewhere, I'm just probably talking out my ass, but I read somewhere that like Pharrell Williams got paid like $30,000 for like millions and millions of plays of his song Happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like no money
Shit. Yeah.
for how many
especially
times that
for-
song was played.
Well, you used to have Apple Music. Mm-hmm. I really liked Apple Music. Just the interface was better than Spotify. Mm-hmm. It has good recommendations too. Like it knows what you
Yeah.
like.
The one thing about I started with Spotify when that first started being a thing, and I loved using it. And I only moved.
Do you
over
have it
to
on a
Apple
computer?
Music. I did on the computer to start, and then when it
Yeah.
came out, because I didn't have a phone when I started using it. I
Because
just
it was
had a
like
laptop.
2011 when I remember when it first started. Like
Yeah.
2011, 2010.
It's actually fairly recent. Like I remember
Yeah.
whenever I saw, because I'd only used Pandora, and so
Yeah.
when
really,
I saw
iPhones have only been really like a thing for less than 10 years.
like 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So we used to do everything on computers, but Spotify. Yeah, I remember on the computer when it first started, it was actually a really good interface to use. But I'm not a big fan of the mobile version.
Yeah.
I just don't think it has. It's not as easy to navigate as like Apple Music.
It feels kind of clunky. I think the one thing that I liked about Spotify, I moved over to Apple Music and have stuck with it, but the one thing that I felt like Apple Music doesn't seem to have as tight of a function on sharing the social element of it. So like one thing
Oh,
that
yeah.
my friends would often share music with each other, and you can see what your friends are listening to. It just felt like there was a very social element of not only what friends, but also curators are doing with playlists. So like you felt like you were
That's a
tapping
good
into
point.
a network of music people in Spotify.
Yeah, like Davis would like share playlists with me, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Well, you mostly listen to music on YouTube, like exclusively.
Yes.
Which is weird. I've never gotten that.
Even when she had Apple Music and would play it, she listens to full albums and she listens to them on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm a full album kind of person. Like I'll just put on a full album.
Will only, if she's listening to music, she's going to listen to a full album and it's going to be on YouTube.
Yeah. It is incredibly rare that I listen to just one song.
Mm-hmm. Only if you're like watching a music video.
Yeah.
I never started listening to albums until Spotify came out. And I realized like, oh my God, I can listen to the whole albums from artists. Because I didn't really buy CDs and I didn't really listen to music other than like the songs that I liked until I got into Spotify as a platform, because it was easy to be able to pick out artists and albums and dive into discographies, because suddenly for like $10 a month I can listen to as much as I want. Whereas with iTunes, it was like an event to buy music. Like, oh my God, I got a gift card for my birthday for $25. I'm gonna buy. My first album that I bought was Brothers by the Black Keys. That was the first one I ever got.
That's way cooler than the first album I bought.
What did you get?
What's your first album?
My first album I bought was Eyes Open by Snow Patrol.
Hell yeah. Oh, that's rad.
That's way cooler than me too.
What about you?
Mine is definitely Blink-182 something.
Oh, come on. That's classic. That's awesome.
Talking about like Spotify and stuff, I had a like Zune Music Pass back in the day before Spotify.
Zune.
It's funny. Like, all of our favorite artists are still those ones that came out of Zune.
Like because Microsoft did like the $10 a month and you could get whatever music you wanted before Spotify, before like any of them had that. And they did the thing where they would suggest music for you, but they wouldn't like tell you. They would just put it on your Zune. You would like whenever you plug in your Zune and like sync your music, they would just like put artists on it.
Really? Yeah, because you couldn't stream it, you would just download it.
Yeah, it was to download.
Oh, cool.
It wasn't streaming. And so I would just like find music on there, and it's some of like my favorite music still to this day.
Because they did like cool like hipster indie rock bands.
Yeah, they would just put music on there, and
couldn't you send music with the Zune too? Like if you had two Zunes, you could send each other.
Touch them or something.
Yeah, or it was called
I don't know
Squeeze.
how it works.
Yeah. I liked my Zune.
Here's your album.
You still have that Zune somewhere. Do you think it works?
I think the battery only lasts like 15 minutes.
And whatever the connection cord is probably completely foreign now. Like
I don't know where. I'd probably could get one on eBay.
My sister Sky swore by her Zune. No, she hadn't. No. I'm thinking of my friend Katie. My friend Katie, who we would hang out and she loved listening to like girl rock bands, which was not my genre at the time. Like I've come around on it now and I fucking into it. But my friend Katie would just have her Zune and she'd be like, I don't understand why people don't have these. These are the best thing ever.
I loved my Zune. Yeah. I was into it. Especially because like iPods were so expensive, and my Zune was like 120 gigabytes back when like the iPod's equivalent for that was like hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
And
I never owned an iPod or a Zune.
Really?
Yeah, no.
First iPod I had was an iPod Touch, and I got it for my birthday, and I cried. I actually cried when I got it.
2006?
That would have been like 2000. I think it was 14, so it would have been like 2000.
Whoa,
yeah.
That's like, a little late to have an iPod Touch.
Yeah, it was like 2010-ish.
Weird.
It was like the second one that came out at that point. So like 2008, the iPhone had been around for about 2 years. It's like 2010-ish was whenever the iPod Touch, the second generation, came out. It was really thin. Played games on it all the time. I loved that.
It was really strange. Like I remember being in class and like having a friend and just like had this rectangle that he was watching South Park on in class. I was like, this is fucking unbelievable.
Like those little nanos, the little square ones with their tiny screens. I think those were the first ones you could watch a video on for the iPods. So like, you'd see people watching a TV show on like a 1-inch screen.
Oh yeah.
You only had enough like storage for like 1 or 2 shows.
Yeah. I had an iPod Nano that I would watch like Batman Begins on like every single night because I could only fit one movie.
One movie.
I had The Dark Knight on. And I just watched it. I probably watched it 300 times.
Yeah.
So a running joke with my friends is I have not seen a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Like, neither have I. I'm with you there.
Yeah, he's not seen a lot of movies.
I'm not patient enough to get through to the end.
Yeah. Like, I actually, whenever my family was watching movies, I'd usually play video games. That was my thing. I loved that. That was before music. So, like, my boss would come in and be like, have you seen Predator? I'm like, no. And he would just throw his hands up and just scoff, like, walk out of the room. Because he's an 80s guy, so all of his, like
to be fair, I haven't seen Predator either.
Thank you. See? It's not weird.
Yeah.
Dad.
But I'm with you there. Like my movie knowledge is so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I took a cinema class.
Oh, you did?
This semester, and I got a C in it. I like tried really, really hard and got a C in the class.
How do you get a C in cinema class?
Dude, it had like exams and papers. It was like one of the hardest classes I've ever
was
had.
Not
It was
watch
like
movies
a-
and say that you like them?
No.
Oh,
it was more like
boo.
do like a filmal. Filmal's a real word, by the way.
Filmal?
Yeah, cinematography analysis paper.
Oh, God.
And to be fair, he had to watch like old Russian films and like 20s films and like all of film history and
Yeah.
So it was pretty complex from an outsider like watching it. I was like, oh, that looks pretty hard actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have not seen a lot of movies.
And in that class, my eyes were open to how little of the world I've seen, because like I haven't seen all of these significant movies. Like I've maybe seen 1% of the movies that were deemed significant on our list.
I feel like I missed out on a lot of movies also because growing up I was Mormon, and so my parents don't watch R-rated movies.
Oh, interesting.
So I kind of like lost out. That's a lot of movies. If you know, like in my whole, I lived with my parents who are Mormon till I was 18. So that's the first 18 years of my life that I really just didn't see any R-rated movies.
Yeah.
Did you have something similar growing up in a Christian household, or were you?
Funny that you say that, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I was gonna ask you where you were probably going. So
Yeah, so that's the same thing. Like growing up, my parents were actually pretty cool about like letting me do things. They weren't super restrictive, but they just would. There was this kind of sense of for R-rated movies, they just said if you can have a reason to, then go for it. And so as a kid, I was kind of guilted into not feeling like I had a reason to watch anything that was super inappropriate. So I didn't ever see an R-rated movie until I was probably 17 or 18, just because of the way I was raised was just kind of like choose. It was very much like a Christian mindset of like choose holy things to ingest.
Yeah.
So same thing with music. I didn't really get into secular music, even though my parents were DJs. I never really listened to secular music until I was like 15.
your parents were DJs?
Yeah. Oh,
your
dude.
parents are Christian DJs?
So my mom has since.
I want to hang with your parents,
Dude, my mom and my dad have grown as much as I have since I've been alive. Like they are since very, very much more cool. It's a good way to put it.
I don't know what you're talking about. They seem fucking really cool.
Oh, dude, my mom is the coolest person I've ever met in terms of especially music taste. Like she's a DJ still. And so she's very much like, she and my sister are the ones that will recommend music to me. Like they'll say, have you heard this new radio single? This is the latest thing that people are listening to. I'll be like, I will add that so that I'm still cool. My dad is a farmer and he's a badass. He's definitely very much like a man who loves to be in the earth and outside and doing things. And so he kind of helped me be an outside person when I wanted to be an inside person. So I have a little bit of that from him. But my mom is definitely the one who's like very into culture of like just modern political culture, musical culture, like especially in the last 2 years has just exploded in her interest, in her understanding of that kind of stuff.
Very
so
cool.
It's really interesting. Like they're way, way cool. And they, like I said, they've grown as much as I have since I was born. So
I feel like my parents have grown a lot too. They've since acquired something called ClearPlay, where it's like a DVD player where you can download. You can download filters so they can like filter out like the sex scenes and the F-bombs.
Skip them.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Dude, we
So now
watched
they'll
The Informant with Matt Damon at their house. It made no fucking sense at all.
Yeah, I'll bet.
There's just like huge plot holes. I'm like, I don't even know.
I remember seeing a commercial for that, and my parents were like, "Oh, that seems like a good idea." We never got it, but like I always wondered, like, how would you do? They make special versions of them? They don't know. They just say, "Okay, these scenes that happen, you just cut them."
Yeah, just cut
then,
them.
Boom, you're like, "Oh, that they know each other now. They're friends, I guess."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah. So they try to evolve, you know. And
Yeah. The first horror movie I ever saw was Paranormal Activity. Whenever I was 17, it scared the shit out of me. I'd never
That's
seen
funny.
a horror
That's
movie
actually
before.
one of that's like the first R-rated horror movie that I ever saw. Also,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I can't say it scared the shit out of me, but it was a little spooky.
Mm-hmm.
I cried during Harry Potter 3 when the Dementors come on, dude.
You say that, but like I remember, my parents didn't let me read Harry Potter until I was like 13, and so there was this moment where I was at my dad's friend's house, and the third movie was playing on screen. I was like, "Dad, can I watch this?" And he's like, "You're ready." And so I watched the whole thing. I was like, this is amazing. But no, I was a sensitive kid. I think my parents knew that because I even still like scary movies will stick with me for a while, and I like them a lot. But like it's whenever something's psychologically unsettling, whether or not I think I can handle it, it'll usually stir me up a little bit more than I think it does.
Are you talking about like scary movies, like with lots of jump scares, or something that's like psychologically taxing?
Mostly psychological stuff. Like jump scares, I think are a little bit more silly. But I saw It with Nate. And we saw that movie, I think it was the night that it came out, and that movie, it's very driven by jump scares rather than psychological horror, but that movie still, like, we were both just clinging to our seats the whole time. It was visceral. Like, there was just elements, I think it was just, like, the peril of it, the horror of it, the unflinching creepiness. Like, I think a lot of movies smartly will use your imagination to scare you rather than what it showed on screen, but this movie went along with saying, this is a terrifying character, and we can render this terrifying character just without cutting away, and it's still the freakiest shit you've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I was really impressed by that. Like, it definitely still scared me, but it didn't stick with me like I think more psychological films have. So
We didn't go see that one, but
I watched a movie recently. If you like kind of psychological,
she's really into
stuff.
like Black Mirror.
yeah,
Black Mirror's good.
Black
Yeah,
Mirror's cool.
I watched a movie called Pontypool.
Pontypool.
It's on Netflix, and it's like, it has like no actors you've ever seen, and it seems like it might be low budget and stuff, but it was really, really well done. And it's like zombie-esque, but it's not really. And it's based on a book that I believe was written by the same guy that wrote A Clockwork Orange, the book Clockwork Orange.
Nice.
Anthony Burgess.
Yeah.
If it's the same author as that, then that's going to be rad as hell.
Yeah.
That's right,
Tony
internet.
Burgess.
I know that.
I haven't seen Clockwork Orange. Yay. Damn it.
But yeah, anyway, it's really good. And it's creepy.
Nice.
And
So-
Is it Pontypool?
It's called
I'm
Pontypool.
going to write that down.
You're not going to remember it because it's just like it's a nonsense. It's the name of a town. But anyway,
Is it one word?
Pontypool, yeah. It's so good. I love it.
So we're at like 20-something minutes. I think we
Yes.
should take our first break and have Jordan perform an original number. What song are you going to play for us?
I think I'll go ahead and I'll play Broken Brain because I think it's a good one to start with. It's a sad song that's about the subject of the title itself. I think it's just part of what the album is about is exploring the fact that I think I have a lot of mental deficiencies based on just how I've sort of been raised, but also how I've just chosen to process certain things. And so that song touches on that for me personally, whenever I do something that I feel like I've bothered a certain person or done something wrong, it takes a lot of reassurance for me to know that things are okay. And so that's a song that I wrote that just kind of touched on that. So
Very cool.
prepare to be sad.
Here it is.
Broken brain, you made a mess out of me again. I tried my hardest just to be a friend, and now I'm out of control. Childhood friend, I want so badly for all this to end, just to feel like I don't have to bend and fold to fit my given role. And how many times can I blame my mind in order to never have to change? And how many times do you have to say that everything's okay before I learn it can stay that way? Excuse me. stuck in place. It's so much easier to ask for grace, to beg forgiveness but to never change, to hope that pity heals stress. Broken brain, you made a mess out of me again. I tried my hardest just to be a friend, and now I'm out of control. And how many times can I blame my mind in order to never have to change? Hey, and how many times do you have to say that everything's okay before I learn it can stay that way?
We're back with the internet's favorite music podcast. If it's your favorite podcast already after episode 1, honestly, we're doing something right.
Fantano. I almost did the wrong thing.
You wanna-
Fantano. Kiwi and
there we
Scooter
go.
Show. There we go.
All right, so as your guest, since you're our guest, you can decide what do you want the image on the green screen to be.
Ooh.
It can be anything you want. Use your imagination.
Oh, that's super cool. Okay. I want it to be. Is it gonna? It's not gonna appear until I say what it is.
We can do
Or
it any way you
can it
want.
just be okay? I want it to be. I want that GIF of the guy and his dog, where it's just this like shirtless kid, and he's just out on the street doing this, and his dog is next to him, like rubbing its butt against the wall, dancing. It's the funniest thing.
I know
I've ever
I know the
seen.
GIF. Okay.
Yeah.
You got it.
Can I be dancing with it too? Can I just?
For this part, absolutely.
Is it GIF or GIF?
GIF.
Ooh,
All right.
I don't appreciate
Do I have
that.
to leave again?
Yeah, that's second time getting.
The guy who made the thing said that it's pronounced GIF. He
Yeah,
has a
he did-
website.
he
where he's
did,
like,
yeah.
This is. I mean, if you made the thing, I think you could.
I see arguments for both sides.
Well, it's very open-minded and noble of you.
It's very cool.
So let's.
People say the same thing about Nazis.
Whoa! Did you just call her a Nazi?
No, I did not. That's not what I meant. I was just saying that the both sides argument can only go so far.
Easy there.
Sorry.
I think Kiwi's probably the farthest from being a Nazi here because she's a Jew.
Are you really?
I'm a quarter Jewish, yeah.
I'm gonna have to leave. Just kidding. That's actually really cool. I don't know if I know anybody that's Jewish, honestly. Just
She's a Jew Mormon, like a Jew Mormon.
a
Yeah.
Mormon? You're a
A
real
Mormon.
Mormon?
A real Jorman.
Yeah. Yeah,
You have superpowers?
I wish. my grandpa was like 100% Jewish, like
Really?
spoke Hebrew.
Really?
Yeah, like went to synagogue growing up and
Awesome.
yeah.
So I figured we could talk a bit about kind of your songwriting process.
Yeah.
And like how you come up with lyrics, because I think that's interesting personally, and we're all 3 songwriters here. I feel
Yeah.
like we can have an interesting discussion.
So excited about this.
So I noticed your lyrics are very introspective, honest.
Yeah.
You kind of remove the veil and just kind of, you want to be as transparent as possible, it seems like, in your lyrics, where, and you seem to have lyrically driven music. I guess I want to know, do you come up with lyrics first, music first, or kind of a mix in between the two?
Well, I guess to put it in perspective, whenever I started getting into music as a musician, the hardest thing for the longest time with writing music was figuring out what my voice was, both literally and just how I wanted to speak and what I wanted to write about. So when it
Do you
came
mean
to
voice in like a metaphorical term, or do you mean your literal singing
my
voice?
actual voice,
Your-
more so than anything else, like
Okay.
the literal voice, but then also a little bit metaphorically with like the sound and the presentation of lyrically and topically. I think for the longest time I just didn't know what I wanted to write about, and so the first couple songs that I wrote about turned out to be about people. The first song that I wrote was the second song that I wrote, I guess, was about this person that I met on Twitter, and they would always just tweet about how they were going through a lot of stuff. So it was kind of amazing. Just their family was really rude to them. They had 2 kids that they were struggling to make sure that they could take care of. They felt like they were stuck in their life. They were trying to figure out what they wanted to do for work and for their future. And so I would just kind of keep in touch as they were figuring that out. And so I decided, like, one of the things that I can do is write music, and I want to use that music to kind of share it with people, and I can utilize that to maybe make somebody's day. So the first song that I wrote, or the second song that I wrote, was in that vein of wanting to write a song that was like, hey, I want to make you smile with just a silly song that you can sing if you ever feel like you're down. And so I think it kind of evolved to talking about people and realizing that I think people influence what I think about and what I feel a lot. And so the next song I wrote after that was about this interaction that I had with a coworker that didn't go well, and so I just wrote like an angry, like a girls are bad song. And then I think I was stuck for a while, because when it came to writing about certain subjects, I didn't really know how to write, literally like what to write when it came to writing about people. And I think it took what eventually is the topic of the album that I just released was this sense of, due to a really strong emotional connection and attraction that I had to somebody in the past year, I realized that I'd never explored anything romantic or dating wise until this past year. Like, it's something I'd never allowed myself to try. And so as a result, I didn't have any of the things that I think you learn in your teenage years in social situations, where like when you are attracted, when your voice breaks, when you're attracted to somebody and they don't want to be with you, how to process that and still be okay with being a person even though you can't be with the one or who you think is the one at the time. And so that's something that I struggled with hardcore. And it's like, oh shit, I have no idea how to process this. I have no idea how to say, okay, this person said no, and I can't seem to just move on. Even though they were totally okay with like wanting to be friends and be in a regular situation, I didn't know how to detach myself appropriately. And so it's something where eventually it just came to a head of like, I have to figure out how to process this. I have to figure out how to get through this. And it's like, well, part of what I did last time when I had this problem was I wrote songs about it. And so in terms of finding things to write about, I think that I'm getting better at being able to just write about something, like to say, I want to write about this thing today. But so far, and especially with this album, it's been mostly very responsive. And so the way that I write lyrics tends to be very much just me speaking about, this is what I'm feeling, or this is what I think, in a very literal conversational sense.
Well, it sounds to me like it's very self-reflective, almost like it's a journey that's like ongoing, almost maybe even therapeutic for you. Like it's almost necessary for your sense of self to write lyrics. Is that kind of what you're going for? Yeah,
I think that's what this album was like. Okay, now's the time to A, release an album as an artist, but B, it's time to face and work through these things that I've been struggling with without directly addressing them for this whole time. So with this album, it was like, okay, this is going to be my therapy and my album project. I'm going to do this. We're going to get this done. And so because I kind of put myself in that corner, I kind of had one way out, which was I got to do this. I got to make this album. And so the songs themselves reflect different parts of that time of my life and those phases of processing and where I was at, basically. So like the first song is Man Seeking Pity, and I think that it talks about literally this idea that whenever, especially when you're my age, I think, which I'm not saying as if someone who's old, but someone who's in his 20s, when you talk about how you are attracted to somebody and you don't know how to get over them, instead of sympathy because you're young, it's more of a, here's the advice you need to hear, this is the reality, get over it. And so it's like, it doesn't help. Like that, for me, it was literally like whenever I said, I have a crush on somebody. They're like, well, dude, if she said no, then like that's it. You gotta move on. You gotta be, I'm like, I get that. I know that. Like there are literally hundreds of songs about that. And movies and music and art. Like that's literally in my brain. The reality is, yes, that's what I have to do. All I want you to do is just listen to me complain about it for an hour. Because that helps. It really does. And like that's something that I think that for healthy or for unhealthy, like I really like whenever I can just be the person that just feel sorry for me for like 30 minutes and I'll work through this. Like that was what the song was about. And so that was me just saying, I understand that you want to help, but the best thing that will help is if you just listen to me talk about this and process this. And so that's kind of what the album is. It's just me doing that out loud. And so I think it was a fun challenge to figure out how to do that in a way that was interesting musically, I would hope. Like something that people would want to listen to and be like, oh, the song is good as a song, but then there's also this really real miniature arc that happens in each song of me saying, here's the problem, here's me getting through the problem, or here's me at least thinking about this and coming to some sort of musical conclusion.
I like that. I like when it's like very real and applicable to your life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that your lyrics are very applicable. They're almost like to a T real things.
Yeah, I write very much like what I'm actually going through and very much like what's really happening to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I write like that. I feel like it's just, I don't know if it's just what comes naturally to me, and it's what I feel like is most honest.
Yeah.
So I can definitely relate to that.
It's like writers like Bob Dylan or even the Beatles. Something that I really admire but don't get just as a writer is...
They write about other things. They write about people. Bob Dylan, like, he tells a story.
Yeah.
Or the Beatles especially, like, they'll... Like, half of their songs are about, like, they're a girl's name and they're telling, like, the story about Eleanor Rigby or Penny Lane.
Yeah.
Like, they're telling... And that's obviously not how we write songs.
Yeah.
I remember early on in my songwriting, I had written one song, and that one song was just a very personal song. And I met with a guy who was a songwriter. Like, his whole thing was like, I want to write songs and meet musicians and write songs with musicians. So I was like, cool, let's do it. And so I hung out at his house for like 45 minutes, and we sat outside, and I tried to write a song, and I couldn't do it because I was trying to write a song like that. Or like he said, what's something that you've thought about that you'd want to write a song about? Or like, what's a story that you want to tell? And I was like, I have no earthly idea. I remember we got to a point where like we were trying to write a song about like an old lady in a diner, and nothing was happening. Like we had the idea and nothing else. And so he was trying to pull out a story like that was from a third person perspective. And I was trying, actually the conversation got to a point where it's like, I almost feel like I want to write a song about not knowing how to write a song.
Yeah.
And he couldn't process, like, not to his detriment, but like he thought differently about songwriting than I did, and so his response was like, I don't know how to write as myself when we're trying to write this song. Like, I don't know how to help you do that when you have to write about that. And so it was just like, I remember being very stuck with trying to write in a traditional like Dylan-esque or just old school way of storytelling rather than just be like, this is how I feel.
I think you're absolutely right about that. It's kind of an old thing to do where a lot of modern music it's gone a lot more introspective.
Yeah.
And it's more first person, and it's more talking about you and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I like that about your guys' music too, if I can, like, since we're both talking about our songs. I think something that I liked when I first listened to your music was, I think the first song I listened to was actually Eggplant Emoji. And what I liked about it was that even though it was written as a song that you could say was relatable for anybody, I think it very distinctly had lines that felt like they were about the two of you. Mm-hmm. And what I liked about your music was that there was this sense of you were writing about something that happened for yourself, whether it was the person singing or if it was about the two of you interacting with each other. And so then when I listened to the album, I loved how all of your songs chronicled either interactions between the two of you. Like, I loved Detox Days. It's a beautiful song. And then I saw you guys do an interview talking about your process of like what you went through in your life just recently, and I was like, wow, that's really cool that I understood that sense of you guys were growing together and learning together through your songwriting before I knew anything about what was really going on in your life. And I just liked how, like I said, that very personal style songwriting I think I connected with and really enjoyed.
Well, there's a lot of similarities in our music, whether our music sounds very different from each other, but has that similar theme of we're both kind of just telling the story of our life and how to become a better person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and speaking of similarity, I remember I posted on Facebook and I just said, what are 3 albums off the top of your head that you felt were directly influential in how you knew you wanted to write songwriting? And we shared the same 3 albums.
I think those are the exact same albums. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
It was Courtney Barnett's recent album, Jeff Rosenstock, and I think I said The Strokes.
Yeah.
And all 3 of those albums, one of the big things that appealed to me lyrically was how, like, especially Courtney Barnett's was just her shooting from the hip about what she's thinking about. And she was so good at making that, like, interesting and lyrically fun, but then also just, like, she's just sitting there thinking of, like what's the song? Depreston.
That's
Oh, I
beautiful
love
song.
Depreston.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Like
So
she
good.
just talks about house hunting, and it somehow is the most magical, interesting experience when she's literally saying,
Yeah.
"We found a shitty house that I think is haunted, and it had a shower in it. And if you have a lot of money, you can knock it down." That's the whole song, but
Yeah, it's just
somehow
telling a story of
beautiful.
something that she did. When I first heard that album all the way through, actually, before that, when I first heard her first single, Avant Gardener, it's like it just changed the way I thought about
That was like when we
everything.
first started talking.
Yeah, that's
like
me and her would listen to that song.
You like sent me this song. You were like, listen to this song, and I listened to it like 30 times that day.
I was, like, addicted to
This song
it.
is amazing. Yeah.
But I love that about the way she writes, and it makes me think about different ways to say things. Mm-hmm. Also,
Yeah.
Australians just talk cool.
I love Australian music. It's my favorite thing right now. It's like Courtney Barnett, Jen Clower, her partner.
Yeah, she's great.
Freaking Alex Cameron.
I don't know who Alex Cameron is.
Love Alex Cameron. When you're done, when you guys are just done tonight, listen to Force Witness, his new album. It's written from the perspective of like kind of a creepy, weird guy. But all of the songs have this really great like 80s Heartland kind of poppy sound to them that has... It's just endearing as a timeless sound, but lyrically, it's hysterical. It's
Okay.
so well... And then Kieran J. Callanan came out with an album recently called Bravado, I think it is. And that album is weird as shit. But it's the same thing. It's just a dude being himself, but like in a grotesquely weird way. And it's a bizarre album. But that whole like weird 80s scene or weird Australian scene has been my favorite thing lately.
Australian indie music has
Yeah.
been on the map lately. It's been really good too. So when you are kind of like brainstorming, I guess is the right word for new material, do you feel like you can just like sit down and decide I'm going to write a song, or do you have to wait for it to kind of come to you and you have no control over it?
I struggle with that a lot because I believe like the philosophy that I've adopted with songwriting is that it's like learning an instrument where you can learn how to write songs and practice writing songs regularly, and it's a skill that you can just write a song. But inspiration helps bring that to life. And so I remember being in a band, the struggle for me in this band, what started this thought process in my head was that the guy who led the band would not write a song unless he was hit with the inspiration.
I'm that guy.
Yeah, and so it was interesting because I would want to just sit down and think of a song and work on it with him, but he couldn't do it because it was something where he was very, I think philosophically, he basically just didn't believe it was a good song unless it came to him as an inspiration. And it was something that I struggled with because I felt like, for me, my songs would be inspired in part, but the thing that I would be proud of was the work that I put into building that into a full song. And so like he wouldn't write songs for months, and so we wouldn't have any new songs to perform or anything for months, and then he would have one that would come up, and it'd often be very good. But I just think that if you are actively writing music just as a skill to kind of practice getting the flow of it, then when you're hit with inspiration, it's that much better. Mm-hmm. And so it's something that for me, I think I like to try and sit down and write a song, and even if it's not good,
Just
it's
to do it to work the part of your brain.
Yeah, because I think specifically, like with almost any other art form, especially like traditional sketching or painting, a common practice is sketching. The idea of just sitting down and just drawing something, whether it's to warm up or just for the fun of it, just something that you can create, have it done in a few minutes, and be like, all right, I made that. And then when you're sitting down to do something that's a more, I mean, if we's artist basically said, I won't draw unless I'm working on a big project or like a full song, those artists don't ever grow, I think, as much as the ones that just say, I'm just going to draw all the time. And then when it's time to draw a big project, I have all that experience under my belt to know, like, I know how to draw this face because I've been sketching faces for 3 months.
Yeah.
Rather than I've never drawn a face before, but now I'm going to do this one project where I'm going to draw the perfect face, and it's going to take a month. And then I did that one face, and I've drawn one face before.
Yeah.
So you're almost doing it like someone would lift weights or go jogging.
Yeah. And so I still think that the songs that I wrote, like for this album, they were due in part, they were written through inspiration driven by a deadline and pressure, but also were written with me laboring over ideas that I had to come up with. And so I think that's why I can kind of confidently argue the standpoint that I'm at, where you can have inspiration, but you should also have that intention of writing, because those songs came out of both. So like, I had melodies for these songs, for 2 of them, that I just recorded on my phone as a memo to kind of keep track of. That's something where I'll do where if I do have inspiration for an idea, it's usually a vocal melody, whether it's lyrically or the actual melody or both. And so then I'll just write it down or record it and kind of keep it in my pocket.
Okay.
And then I'll usually attach that to an instrumental idea that I'll put together manually. So like for Late Bloomer, that song was...
The guitar on that song is sick.
That was all just hammering it out for like literally 8 days.
The guitar work on that song is very impressive.
Thank you.
That was really good playing. Like, the tone was great, the playing was great. That guitar sounds awesome on that song.
Thank you. I'm really proud of how that turned out. But that was, I mean, for that song, the thing that was toughest was the only inspiration I had for it was the chorus, the take your time, melody, and break. And so what I had to do was, okay, I have a month and I love this part. I want this to be the chorus, but I had to work to build everything else around that. And so like the guitar line that plays at the beginning and in the bridge of the song was just me sitting with my guitar, noodling for several days, just trying to figure out something that I liked. And then I was like, I think I figured out what I want. And then I put it together. And then what was the hardest part for that song was that I actually ended up having like 6 different ideas for what I wanted the structure to be and what I wanted the verse to sound like. There's a running joke with my friends where all of my songs have like 8 parts, where it's like the pre-verse, the verse, the post-verse, the chorus, the pre-chorus.
The pre-coda.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Post-coda.
And
Yeah.
so it was A, figuring out what parts I wanted to go where, and then B, cutting parts. That song went from being 6 minutes long to 4 minutes long, just because it was me saying, what needs to stay? What can I get rid of? It was very much like an intentional, like, this is how I want the song to be. And that song has been the song that I think people have liked the most in terms of, like, someone who listens to it, they say, my favorite song is Late Bloomer. Most people have said that. And so it's interesting because that's probably the least inspired one, but it's the one that I worked towards most intentionally, and I think it's the one that has the most interesting guitar work for me, the tone that I feel like I worked on the most. And so that's something where I love inspiration as a musical element, but I think that especially when you combine it with like practice and a lot of intentional work, that's how you get things that you're very proud of. I don't know, it's like the concept of an artistic muse is almost like bothersome to me because I don't like that I didn't come up with it.
Right.
Or like I didn't do that myself. It was just an idea that I had.
That's what I get very frustrated with is
Yeah.
I seem to be not in control of the songs I'm writing.
I'm a control freak.
And
Yeah.
I can't, it's not like everything else in my life is like, well, if I need to get schoolwork done, I'm going to sit down and do my schoolwork.
Yeah.
But with music, I can't just decide to do that. Like, my inspiration will come to me just randomly and I don't really have any control.
Yeah, I feel that way also. And
You
I
seem to be in somewhat of a middle ground too, though.
Yeah, because I really liked what you were saying about the, sketching and stuff. Because I've, done like art, drawing and stuff for a long time. But so I feel like you do have to sit down and tell yourself like, I'm going to write or I'm going to draw. And sometimes if you just sit down, you can get something on paper and it might end up being something that you really like. Or even if it's not something that you really like, something that you can work from.
Exactly.
But I feel like sometimes the best thing that comes out of that is just getting that part of your brain moving where you get into the habit of just writing.
Yeah.
So that the next time, the next day, you're like, oh, I wrote yesterday. I'll just write again today.
Yeah. And then when inspiration hits, you're like, I know exactly.
Yeah.
I'm
Ready to go.
ready to go into that mode.
You have the
Yeah.
tools you need.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I come up with guitar parts so easily. Guitar is different than like lyrics.
Yeah, and that's
Guitar,
interesting.
I can decide to write a cool riff and I can come up with something in an hour, but it's not like that for other things.
Exactly. And that's something I wanted to ask you about too, is for me, a lot of why my music sounds the way it does, the hardest thing for me for writing music was figuring out what my genre was, or just what style of music I was most attracted to. And literally, I did not have a style that I listened to where it's like, that's it, until I listened to Jeff Rosenstock.
Because he kind of does everything.
Yeah, like it's kind of like it's punk and rock influence where it's like electric guitars, power chords.
Or sometimes he just straight acoustic.
Yeah, but I love that his style of writing, where it's very much like energetic and there was no rules for what instruments he could use. Like I like how some of his songs just have keyboards and chimes and horns. Like I don't know, I just listen.
Well,
to him,
on
it's
Worry,
like,
he
that's
has a
what I
lot
wanna
of stuff like that. He has a lot of chimes and a lot of...
Worry. Can we cover a song from Worry? Because I just want to sing his music.
We'll let the internet decide. If this video gets 30 likes,
30 likes.
we'll cover a song from Worry.
Hell yeah.
But for you, it's interesting because I come up with probably like, for every 20 songs I write, I have like 2,000 melodies and chord progressions for.
Yeah.
And so she will just kind of filter through some of the stuff that I can't think of anything for.
Yeah.
And then she'll take a good chord progression that I have and then she'll write to it, which I don't know how she does that. Like her brain works that way. Is that something that like you have to work hard at, or is it just come naturally?
Coming up with melodies?
Yeah, to like a chord progression I'm playing or a riff I'm playing.
That comes very easily to me. But I was a trained jazz vocalist for a long time. I went to Arts West in Boise, which is like a private arts high school where I had like a bunch of like jazz music classes, and it was kind of like a joke of a high school. Like I only took like one math class like my whole high school basically. But yeah, so I learned a lot of like improvisation and stuff. So coming up with melodies is like something that's very easy to me and it's very fun. And sometimes something just feels like it fits and it works and it's just like boom.
Mm-hmm.
Which
you
is
know?
frustrating sometimes because I'll be like, hey, do you like this? And she'll be like, no. No. Play something else, and I'll have one chord. I'll play like a G chord.
Yeah.
And then I'll like try a C, and she'll be like, no. And I'll be like D, and like no. E minor, no. I'm like, there's nothing else I can go to.
I'm out of chords.
Yeah.
There are only 4 of them.
I'm done. Like there's nowhere this can go now.
That's it. It's over. Just throw the song in the trash.
So let's cut. You're gonna play another song. Mm-hmm. What song are you going to play now?
Let's do... I think I'll go ahead and play a song that's not off the record. This song is called Cute, and it's that song that I wrote that was like the Angry Girls Are Bad song.
So this is the first song you wrote?
This is
one of the first songs you wrote.
I think it's the 3rd song I wrote. So
Very
it's
cool.
Early song, but I love it because it was the first song that I wrote that when I showed it to a friend of mine who was also a musician, he's like, I love this song.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I hope that you guys like it. I mean, it's just a song I'm proud of.
Sounds good.
Well, even if we don't like it, we're gonna smile and say we did.
Yay!
And I hope that you guys will too.
Lie to me in the comments, please.
All right, here we go.
Cool.
I know that you said that you already had plans. Drinking at noon with your friends, it's just alright, fine. And then you ask me if I'm just asking as friends. What do you think is the reason when somebody tries to take you out? It's just that you were exactly what I had feared you'd be. Maybe I can't handle being rejected, but see, I sure thought you were cute, at least at first, but you showed no grace beyond trying to flirt. And the moment I ask you straight, you think like I must be playing a game. So are we really still friends, or just in arm's length away? Alright, then be that way. eyes all seem to close, and friendliness is over. Oh no. Check another one off of the list. I asked if I could come just a little bit closer. Oh, I sure thought you were cute, at least at first, but she showed no grace beyond trying to flirt. And the moment I ask you straight, you shrink like I must be playing a game. So are we really still friends, or just in arm's length away? Alright, then be that way.
Welcome back to the hipster beanie flannel show.
We all look like we do a lot of drugs.
We all look like we're poor and from Seattle.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's the Boise look.
This is
Seattle
the Boise
poor.
look. All the kids from Seattle have moved to Boise now, and we're Seattle now.
I'm sorry I peaked the audio by shouting. Scared me.
It's fine. That part won't be in. All right. So first things first. You can choose the green screen for this third segment.
I would love a picture. Damn it, I wasn't ready for another one. Okay, one of my all-time favorite pictures is I want just a picture of. You ever seen the comic Flork of Cows?
No.
It's the sock puppet comic. Okay.
Okay, maybe.
I'll send you a favorite. It's just these badly drawn MS Paint sock puppets, and they make the greatest faces.
Okay.
And so I'm just gonna send you one.
Perfect.
I just want to hear.
And then we'll throw it up there. You got
Sounds
it.
good.
All right. So talk a bit about genres.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Genre. I think genres are dead.
Dead. Straight up dead?
I do.
Damn, that's a real. I don't know.
I think our genre is trap rap.
That's what we always put.
Rattling hi-hats.
Whenever we upload something to SoundCloud and it lets you pick a genre, we just pick the most ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Like trance hop.
Yeah.
Trance.
No, it's really hard to say because
Like what I use your genre, like blues, indie. Like it doesn't make any
Well,
sense.
yeah, I mean, I think that my music, if anything, that's something that I would probably say is the only thing about my music is that it's very much, you could pigeonhole it into like a genre where I think it's like indie punk is a good way to put
Indie
it, or
punk.
like punk pop.
We've said those words about our band before, but we also feel like that's disingenuous to call us an indie band or a punk band.
Well, yeah, what the hell's an indie band?
Well, like,
Yeah.
and it comes with like this elitism around it, where fans of the genre are going to be like, "Fuck you, you're not that."
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in a thing with all these rules.
Yeah.
Well, what genre is like all the popular bands? What genre is Bob Dylan? What genre is the Beatles?
I love alternative.
Yeah,
my favorite.
alternative.
Like, when you look at alternative on iTunes, it's literally
Everyone, yeah.
all of the
everybody
bands.
can't be alternative.
Or else
That's not
nothing
how
will
it
be.
works.
Oh, no, it's weird because I think that you have either the camp of genres are dead, why do we care about genres, let's just get rid of them, or you have people who are very much into, it's like that running joke about electronic music, where like, oh, I love this house track, and they're like, that's not house. This is like trance, dubstep influenced trap.
And then you
This
feel
is
like
deep-
an idiot.
This is
I didn't
deep
know.
trance.
This is electro house, thank you.
Deep trance sounds like a state you'd be in on LSD. Not a genre of music.
It's that point
I
where
did
you're
too
like,
much 2/5 boom and I'm in a deep trance. Yeah, and it's hard. It's like, because you kind of need something to classify music. It's, you can say, oh, genres are dead, but then people it's kind of useful to have terms to classify music, because if you have, like, you want to introduce a friend to music and you need a jumping off point, your friend, oh, what kind of music do you listen to? I want to give you a couple bands to start off from. And
You gotta give them something.
and if there's no genres, you're just gonna give them like Slipknot and Smash Mouth.
Those are my two favorites.
those are my favorite genres. I love Smash Mouth bands. That's actually, whenever I'm at work, what I do at work is I'm a host, so I talk to people. The whole thing of what I do is I talk to people when they come up to the line, besides taking their order, just like, having conversations with them to make them feel at home when they're in work.
So let me just say this.
Yeah?
If I was you and I had that job, I would
Yeah.
literally kill myself. That's my version of hell, actually.
It's a personal hell. It's like
Having to small talk with people while they wait for their coffee.
Oh, I know what you mean. It's tough because, I mean, for me, I like talking to people, but I also think that small talk is the hardest thing because I think everyone's kind of been on the fact
We have nothing to go off of.
Yeah. And so a common question will be like, what are you listening to lately? And the most frustrating thing is that I'll say that. People are like, oh, I like to listen to everything except hip-hop and country. Like,
Why are you making these rules for yourself?
What does that mean? Like, so what bands are you listening to right now? Like, I learned how to ask that question in a way where I could get an actual answer.
Yeah, more specific from people.
Yeah. So to be able to say like, dude, what's the last thing that you listened to on Spotify yesterday? And they'll be like, oh, I checked this out. Like, what do you think? I love X, Y, or Z song.
Yeah.
Like, because I think that people's music taste often reflects kind of where they're at, or otherwise reflects like what they're really into culturally. I mean, whenever you have somebody like I love when I find somebody who I'll have a guess of what they're listening to, and I'm totally wrong. Or like they'll come up and I'll be like, this guy definitely listens to butt rock. And he's like, yeah, I've really been listening to a lot of like Kendrick, and I'm like, whoa, that was wrong.
That happens to me a lot too. Like at school, like I'll ask like a frat boy, like, well, I bet you listen to some garbage music, and they're like really like sensitive. Like I like the Shins actually. No fucking way.
Yeah.
I think
funny.
genres are just dumb because like they never really work. They never fit. They never do their job. They don't really serve a purpose.
True. But how else do you? That's the thing. Why genre continues to exist is how else do you explain? How do you explain to someone what kind of music they
You
like?
are.
Yeah,
Or
yeah, as
like
a
to
musician.
self-describe.
Yeah, so like, I think that's part of why, on a random side note, I think that's why YouTube music reviewers are really popular versus written critique lately, because what they do is they can talk about an album with expression, with emotion.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I can read, like, one of the amazing things about Pitchfork for how much it's up its own ass is that they're very good in written word of expressing the feeling of how it is to listen to an album. So they can somehow express like the emotional state that they went through listening to a record in prose, which is really impressive. But it's so much more immediate to have someone look into a camera and say like, whenever I listen to the latest, the Strokes record, I felt this way. Like when I listened to it, besides saying like what I liked about it, I can say like, oh, it has guitars, drums, and bass.
But that really tells you nothing.
Exactly, but you can say like, dude, I loved how it had this really it just made me feel like I was sitting on a couch in the middle of the day and I was just bored and just kind of this melodramatic, but also really engaging and super like catchy guitar hooks. Like when you talk about that with that expression and emotion that you can state, people kind of can pick up on what you're feeling when you listen to that music. And I think that when people hear certain keywords or get a certain vibe off of you talking about music, and I hate the word vibe, but that's I'm gonna go with that.
You just said it.
I know. As soon as I said it, I was like, oh. But I think that when people read a certain emotion off of when people discuss music, that's what gets them into it. So like I can tell somebody, oh, I love listening to Courtney Barnett because she's a singer-songwriter. But if I say specifically what I like about Courtney Barnett and the way that she has like these really crazy guitar lines and she has this really interesting conversational style of speaking, like I think when I say stuff like that, people are like, oh, that's really interesting.
Well, I think that she's one that doesn't have a genre. She's sometimes punk, sometimes she's like straight up like singer-songwriter, and then sometimes like psychedelic rock.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the album, she kind of goes into like a Pink Floyd style.
Oh, yeah.
What's it called? Kim's Caravan?
Yeah.
She's talking about like the death of the ocean, basically.
Yeah, that song is like very psychedelic and strange. But I feel like it's just, especially for modern music, genres are like the death of themselves because then they become subgenres and subgenres and subgenres.
And they kind of fracture.
At weird points too.
And then the thing is that artists very rarely are so like similar to themselves all the time. Like on our album, I feel like we're very eclectic and like we're talking like Courtney Barnett, she herself fractures into different subgenres. And I think most artists do on an album. Like it's hard.
Well, you do on your album quite a bit.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I can
hard
say
to.
that it's a rock album, but whenever I say rock, I feel gross because rock often associates with other genres.
Like
that are
radio rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not
Yeah, that kind of seems disingenuous. And I feel like whenever you just list a genre, it kind of puts the wrong image in somebody's head or the wrong sound in somebody's mind.
When someone tells you like, "Hey, we're a punk band," what do you think?
Yeah, I think of like the head
Studded
cases.
vest, PBR drinking.
When I call you guys a punk band, I'm like, that's not like really what they
not
are.
right.
They have like punk influences.
And
but, like,
then you think, we're more pop than that. But then I think pop punk.
Yeah.
Then I'm thinking like,
Then
it's
it's
not.
Fall Out Boy, Blink-182. I mean,
It's like, no, it's not pop punk.
but
That's not
there
right.
is influences from Fall Out Boy. There is influences from Blink-182.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking, well, it's more indie than that.
But there's
then I'm
also
like,
influences from the Ramones, and there's also influences from Pink Floyd, and there's also influences from Bob Dylan. It's just like
yeah.
we're all
So how
over
do you
the place.
talk about music? I mean, I guess that's that always
We
comes
don't.
back to.
You know?
This is all a ruse.
We're more into movies.
We're a band, but we don't really want to do that.
We like the movie Predator.
It's funny, like some of the people that I respect most artistically, I disagree with them on so much music. Me and her like really only agree on like a couple bands.
Really?
That's not true.
How do you mean when you say agree
I
on a
would
couple
I would
bands?
say like when we met, we had very, very different tastes in music. And then as we met, I feel like I showed you a lot of music and you showed me a lot of music, and we've come to terms with each other's taste in music. But when I met Michael, I knew like nothing about punk music.
Yeah.
At all.
And I was like the biggest
at
nerd.
all.
Yeah.
Like I would like, oh, it's all just the same and it's all garbage, you know. Like I could not even handle like listening to an entire NoFX song when I met Michael, and now I love NoFX. You know, so like I feel like I've grown since I met Michael.
It's
My
so
music
weird hearing
taste.
you be called Michael. Like it's
It's my Christian name.
that's my given name.
Yeah. But yeah.
My name is actually Horatio Thornquest. Apply to all of you.
Horatio.
But yeah, I feel like our inherent taste in music are very different. I'm more like an indie head. I'm a hipster at heart.
Yeah.
I'm
really
turning
love
into that though.
that. You feel like that's something you're kind of.
I'm turning it
digging more and
slowly.
more? Yeah. Like whenever I
turning
started getting
him.
into music, I was a rock guy. I loved like Jimi Hendrix and Steve Vai and guitar stuff and solos. And so like as I've kind of grown into like using guitars in music. And so my favorite music that I'll kind of naturally gravitate to is anything that's kind of rock driven. Like Death From Above came out with a new album this year that I fucking love, because it's bass and drums and it's just riffs and like aggression and style and like phone. But
okay.
it's super fun. But at the same time, I'm really getting into hip hop. But I still have this sort of interesting. I'm not used to hip hop, so whenever I listen to a new hip hop album, my initial interest in it might be like from more of a left brain standpoint than like I'm enjoying this. So like it won't be so much of me listening to it and be like, oh yeah, this is what I like. It's like this is really interesting, and then it'll evolve into I really dig this just listening to it. Like the first time I listened to Kendrick Lamar, this is gonna be terrible. So when I first got into hip hop music, it was Macklemore.
Oh. Did you get the haircut?
Ouch.
Did you get the
I
haircut?
had a haircut. So I was like, oh my god, dude, freaking The Heist is the best hip hop album I've ever heard. So like I was like my favorite.
Reddit would just have a heyday with this right now.
I know, dude, and freaking I remember the Grammys. It was The Heist versus Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar. And whenever The Heist won, I saw no problem with that.
Yeah.
And there was like a huge uproar of people being like, "What? Why did Macklemore win? What in any respect?" And I was like, "Because it's a better album." And so I then came back around to listening. I remember the first time I listened to Kendrick, I was like, "I don't get this. I don't enjoy this." And so then it took a lot of like people saying, dude, Kendrick is really good. You need to try it. And so I was like listening to it, read about it, studied why it was an important album, and then listened to that from that standpoint. And it evolved into me being like, oh, I'm kind of getting a taste for this album. And now I can't stand The Heist. And I love Kendrick's music, and hip hop in general I've really dug into and really am starting to enjoy.
Well, sometimes good music is like that. It takes like a lot of effort
Yeah.
from the listener's part to kind of get why it's good.
Exactly. In certain genres too, like I remember for the longest time I didn't Like country music, I think it's kind of a regular thing to be like, I don't like country music.
I think it's so dumb when people say that. There's so much like good country music
Yeah.
out there that's like, especially like bluegrass is like an awesome genre of music.
Yeah.
Bluegrass is so fun.
And like
it's
there's so much
cool.
old country music that is totally cool and relevant.
And new country music that's pulling from blues and soul and even elements of experimental psych rock. That's like Sturgill Simpson. Have you listened to him at all?
Sturgill Simpson. I saw them on
Cool
Conan and they were
stuff.
really good.
Really,
Oh,
really
yeah.
cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I think that's something where all that to say, talking about music and getting people to understand music, I think I've been more convinced when people talk about what they got from it listening to it and what elements were really striking to them emotionally than when someone says, oh, it's a punk album. Because like, I mean, part of me would be like, oh, when I hear the word punk, I know I usually like punk, so I'll kind of go for that genre. So with promotion, like getting into the idea of promoting music, genres I think still have value to get people to listen to your band, because when people are into a certain kind of music, whether or not it's exactly what they're looking for, they'll associate certain words with something that they like. So like whenever I think of punk, I'll have a different vision of what I think of when I think of punk than when someone else thinks of punk.
What do you think of punk?
So when I think of punk, I actually think of more along the lines of artists like Jeff Rosenstock, where it's a little bit scrappier, guitar chords that are very loud, very imprecise playing rather than anything that's super polished. I think about vocals that are usually pretty yelly.
His vocals are pretty punk. I'd say the instrumentation is, other than the guitar, is totally not punk.
Yeah, which is...
But that's almost what makes it punk.
But I call it punk. Yeah, and see, that's the thing is like, what is punk? And so then I'll also think of like Sex Pistols or the Ramones. Like those are bands that I think are pretty distinctly put in the punk category. But like I
actually can't stand the Sex Pistols at all.
You don't like the Sex Pistols? Okay, so I have to confess, I haven't listened to a lot of the Sex Pistols, but what I've heard, I've liked.
I just, it's...
The Sex Pistols are corporate shills.
Oh!
They're a front.
This is why I'm here. I love this.
Read the Sex Pistols Wikipedia page.
What do you think of Nirvana?
I love Nirvana.
Nirvana's fine.
I'm honestly sick of a lot of their music because it's been blasted down my throat since I was a kid.
I have just started listening to Nirvana.
Really?
Yeah. So like I'm just now like, because I mean I've heard the singles, like the 5 songs that everybody knows.
Right.
But like listening to, it's weird hearing a band that their presence in your brain is just like a commercial. And so digging into them as an artist where it's like, I'm going to listen to an album by Nirvana and like understand like what the whole theme of the whole thing is. Like it's really exciting actually to be able to listen to hear Smells Like Teen Spirit in the context of the rest of the record, to be like, oh, this song has a spot in this playlist for a reason.
Yeah.
It has its place of where everything else goes. I love how albums are structured. I think that's such a fun part of how to...
Yeah, to be fair, I don't think I've ever really delved into Nirvana's like discography, and I
If
do,
you listen
and
to
I do like,
Nevermind, you would like it all the way through.
and I do like grunge, so I might like Nirvana more than I.
Grunge.
Have you ever seen Nirvana the band, the show?
I love Nirvana the band.
You do.
Perfect.
We're like probably the biggest fans. Of
Anyone
that
that's
show.
in a band should love Nirvana the band, the
Oh,
show.
hell yeah. I didn't even know it was a thing until like 3 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah, I'm new to it.
Oh my gosh,
it's only
the
been
new-
around for like a year,
It's
so
fairly new.
Yeah,
That
it's
makes
very
me
new.
so sad because he's probably missed all like the YouTube videos that have been since deleted.
Yeah, the YouTube videos were all deleted.
Yeah,
I
they
don't
had
even-
they had a bunch of YouTube
They
videos.
they started
deleted.
as a web series.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're very influential on our lives and our YouTube series.
Yay.
Yeah.
But it's a very good show.
Christmas Orange.
We recommend it. Okay, don't start quoting.
Sorry,
don't
I'm
start
sorry.
quoting.
Stuck in a loop for
I'm
like
sorry.
She just says Christmas Orange for the next 20 minutes.
Oh my god, I love.
What
the
else are you?
Nirvana
What do
show.
you watch a lot of?
What do I watch a lot of?
Yeah,
Um,
YouTube, TV.
Yeah, it's funny because like I was saying, I don't really watch a lot of movies. We never had cable growing up. Like my parents were super against cable TV, which in retrospect I think was a great idea. But now like cartoons that a lot of people have grown up with. I love animation. Like that's kind of my favorite genre. And
I love that too. Yeah.
I love like getting into shows that I think a lot of newer animation especially is very, very cool visually, but also digging into a lot of things that a lot of other TV shows aren't. Like I love Steven Universe. I love what are some shows I've been watching? I've actually been watching like old anime a lot too, like Yu Yu Hakusho. Fucking love that.
So you're not a weeb, but you're a,
I was almost a weeb.
almost a weeb.
Dude, If you ever want to have a blast, I'll tell you about all the things that I was almost a furry. I was almost a weeb. I was almost a lot of terrible things. I don't know how I got to where I was
I feel like that deserves its own episode of the podcast.
Dr. Phil, I was almost a furry.
Well, it's funny because I was so excited about discovering manga whenever I first read it because I liked comics, and so I was so into manga without getting into the weird parts of manga, and then eventually I was like, I want to try something else. And then as a 21-year-old looking back on where I almost was a weeb, I was like, I don't know how I dodged that bullet. But and then other TV shows too. I'm trying to think I used to watch the occasional Netflix series. I love Breaking Bad. That was a great show, and I recently watched Ozark, which I thought was a lot of fun. Okay. Because I love Arrested Development. I don't know if you.
I love Arrested Development.
We're big fans.
I've seen it through so many times.
Whenever I saw the commercial for Ozark, I was like, I don't know how Jason Bateman can be a serious actor because he's good at being kind of.
Is Ozark good?
It was good. It was actually very good. It was, without spoiling much, I think that if anything I can say to its benefit, it's that I thought it was going to be a Breaking Bad clone. It was definitely not. It was actually very much its own show.
Cool.
And B, I didn't think I'd take Jason Bateman seriously as a lead in a serious crime show, and he convinced me. Within the first 2 episodes, I was like, holy shit, he's terrifying. So
cool.
It was cool. And then if I had to pick one more TV show, a lot of YouTube. I like weting YouTube series. We're
YouTube nerds. That's our game. We don't watch TV or movies really at all.
Part of my Christian upbringing, I wasn't allowed to watch YouTube until I was 16.
Whoa. Wow. But that probably made it even better when you got it. It's like the forbidden fruit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I didn't really, I'm retroactively learning about the crazy internet culture that I adore. If there are shows that I keep up with regularly, I really like Game Grumps. I'm not a big Let's Play guy, but I enjoy their show a lot.
Okay.
I really like Your Movie Sucks. I think that he's hilariously entertaining.
He does interviews with the Nirvana band, The Show Guys.
Yeah, that's how I found out about the show, was him.
Oh, okay, cool.
And one more good YouTube show I've really been into. It's more informative. Oh crap! I can't remember.
Is it political or educational?
Educational. Oh, I love the needle drop, obviously.
That goes without saying.
Yeah. When he
we
talks
love
about
Fantano.
Music.
Runsany, fast Tano.
We were just literally watching that video as you showed up.
Did you watch his list week video for the top albums?
We didn't watch we watched the bottom albums.
We watched the bottom.
Cool.
We like the ones where he's angry and shitting on the music.
Yes.
It's all right when he likes the music, but I like hearing the
top ones. The top ones stress me out because then I just want to go listen to all of it, and then I don't have the time.
I don't actually ever agree with him on the good albums. He always gives the albums I really like shit reviews.
He didn't like Courtney Barnett.
No, he didn't like it.
Give him a 6.
He didn't like AJJ. He didn't like the Cage the Elephant album that won a Grammy.
He likes Wolf Parade pretty medium. He gives them high 7s.
He did get me into Death Grips though. I did not get Death Grips.
I've never listened to him.
I like Death Grips.
I love Death Grips.
I don't like Anthony Fantano love Death Grips, but I like Death Grips.
Well, Anthony Fantano loves Death Grips more than anyone loves anything.
I went and saw them live in
cool.
in November. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Crazy.
I'm sure they
put on a good show.
A live show.
It was a blast.
That's cool.
So as musicians and performers, I think that playing songs, it's pretty easy to play songs where you have kind of a flow of chill, easy to play, and then you can build up intensity and have moments where you can hit a vocal note that you can't hit all the time. You can do it that one time. He's just here
always.
He's just always shouting and flexing and moving, and just Zach Hill on the drums just go fucking nuts. I've never seen a man move constantly for an hour. I don't know how he does it. It was great. As a person who can kind of do drums, watching Zach constantly move playing percussion was genuinely amazing. It's like when you watch a weightlifter and you're like, I
could never do that.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So I don't really know much about Death Grips music, but Zach Hill does a song with Waves.
Yeah.
Called Baseball Cards. That's one of my favorite songs
Baseball
ever.
Cards is so good.
It's just so fucking weird and good. Yeah. His drumming on it's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
It's great.
All right, guys.
We are running out of time. Is there anything else that you want to say?
Yeah, I think one thing that I would
And we're all out of time.
We're done! I think if anything, I hope that you guys, the best thing that I love about making music is talking about making music and hearing what people think about it. So I guess if you're just listening and you listen to my music, that was weird. Tell me what you think. That's the biggest thing I can ask is like, let me know if you liked it, if you didn't like it, what stood out. I love making things, but I like sharing what I make. And so I think that's the only reason why I would write about deeply personal things other than just the therapy of it. I like to share that because I want to know what other people think about it and talk about it. So let me know what you think of the album. If there's a song you like, if you didn't like, if you want to make something, let me know. I'm always down with that. And
I'm gonna delete all the mean comments. So don't you?
Please.
So don't worry about anything.
Thank you. Everyone will love it.
Dude, on our last video we did, someone commented. It was the #1 comment. Just said, "Scooter looks fucking gay."
What does that mean?
I don't know. I was wearing a pink sweater with a V-neck. It was kind of gay, but it's fine.
Gay cool? Isn't that the whole like?
Gay is cool to me.
Gay is cool, man.
But
I don't
gay
know if it's an insult.
Gay isn't cool on the internet. They mean something different.
Since when?
All right. Well, it's been a good time.
Yeah.
I hope that you enjoyed this. If you're still listening, wow. Wow. Good for you.
Yeah, that we just went wild.
I bet you 99% of the people that listen to this fall asleep halfway through.
I wish I could see like a chart of like people listening and then just dropping
Falling
off.
asleep, yeah.
It's just a very...
That's what I do when I listen to podcasts. It's like, and then 30 minutes in, I'm out.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about Anthony Fantano is that I can put on a review of his and be asleep by the end of it.
That is very good. All right, you guys. Let us